Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Best English Podcast, your daily dose of English conversation to help you improve your fluency, expand your vocabulary, and just feel more comfortable with the language. My name is Olivia.
And I'm James. It's so good to be with you all again. We have a topic today, Olivia, that I think everyone, and I mean everyone, can relate to in some way. It's something that affects our daily lives, our happiness, and even how we see the world.
It really is. We're going to be talking about connection, specifically the art of connection in our very, very digital world. We'll be exploring everything from social media friendships and online communities to the magic of face-to-face interaction and how we can find a healthy balance between the two.
And this isn't just a theoretical discussion. We're going to share some of our own personal stories, our struggles, and the things we've learned along the way. We really want this to feel like a chat among friends. So grab a cup of tea or coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive in.
Okay, James, I have to start with the big one, the elephant in the room, social media. When I say the word connection, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it your Instagram feed, a WhatsApp group?
That's a brilliant question to start with. Honestly, my immediate feeling is complicated. It's a mix of gratitude and, if I'm being completely honest, a little bit of exhaustion. On one hand, my family is spread all over the world. My sister is in Canada, my cousin is in Australia. Social media is an absolute lifeline. Seeing a photo of my little niece taking her first steps, even though I'm thousands of miles away, that's a beautiful, powerful connection that my parents' generation could only dream of.
I completely agree with that. The ability to bridge geographical distance is incredible. It's a modern miracle, really. For me, it's also about connecting with people who share niche interests. For example, I'm really into urban gardening, trying to grow vegetables on my tiny apartment balcony.
I've seen your tomatoes. They look surprisingly professional.
Thank you. Well, I found this amazing online community, a forum for people who do the same thing. I've gotten so much advice, shared pictures of my struggling chili plants, and received so much encouragement. These are people I'll probably never meet in person, but there's a genuine sense of community, a shared passion. It's a connection that wouldn't have been possible 20 years ago. So, in that sense, digital connection is a massive win.
It is, but there's always a but, isn't there? I think the downside for me is the pressure and the performance. We often talk about connecting with hundreds or even thousands of people online, but how deep is that connection really? You see these highly curated versions of people's lives.
Ah, curated. That's a fantastic word. For our listeners, when we say something is curated, it means it's been very carefully chosen and organized, like a museum curator choosing paintings for an exhibition. On social media, people curate their lives. They only show the best parts, the perfect holidays, the successful projects, the happy family photos.
Exactly. And you consciously know that. You know you're only seeing the highlight reel. But subconsciously, it can still make you feel, well, inadequate. You see someone's perfect-looking life and compare it to your own messy, complicated reality where you've just burned the toast and are running late for a meeting. It can create this feeling of being disconnected from your own life, and ironically, it can make you feel more alone.
That's so true. I've definitely fallen into that trap. And there's a term for it now, isn't there? Doom scrolling.
Oh, yes, the dreaded doom scrolling.
It's when you just can't stop scrolling through your phone, reading one piece of bad news or negative content after another. You know it's making you feel anxious and sad, but it's almost addictive. It's a very passive, unhealthy form of engagement. It's the opposite of a meaningful connection. You're consuming content, not connecting with people.
You've hit the nail on the head there. The key difference is between being a passive consumer and an active participant. Sending a thoughtful private message to a friend you haven't spoken to in a while, asking them how they're really doing. That's an active, meaningful connection. Mindlessly scrolling through 100 posts from people you barely know, that's passive consumption. It feels like you're being social, but you're not.
It's a bit of a social illusion. And I think the pandemic really amplified this for everyone. We were forced into digital-only connections. At first, it was a novelty. Zoom quizzes and virtual hangouts were fun. But after a while, I started to feel this strange fatigue. I was seeing people's faces on a screen, but I was missing something vital.
The energy in the room, the non-verbal cues. You can't read body language properly on a video call. You miss the subtle shift in someone's posture, the way they tap their foot when they're nervous, the shared, comfortable silence. Those are all part of communication, part of connection. They're the data points our brains have been trained for thousands of years to interpret, and without them, conversations can feel a bit hollow.
Hollow is the perfect word. It's like eating rice cakes when you're craving a proper meal. It fills you up, technically, but it's not satisfying. I think social media is a fantastic tool, a great supplement, but it can't be the main course of our social diet. It's a double-edged sword.
Let's break that idiom down. A double-edged sword is something that has both positive and negative consequences. It can help you, but it can also hurt you. The internet's ability to connect us is a huge advantage, but its potential to make us feel isolated is the other, sharper edge of the sword. The challenge is learning how to wield it carefully.
So this brings us to the other side of the coin. If we're looking for that satisfying main course meal of connection, we need to talk about the offline world. And I think for a lot of people, myself included, that can be a bit intimidating.
It really can be. It requires a different kind of courage, doesn't it? Online, you can edit your comment. You can think for 10 minutes before you reply. In person, it's all live. It's unfiltered. You have to be present.
I want to share a story about this. About a year ago, I was feeling that exact digital fatigue we talked about. I felt like I had a lot of friends online, but was feeling quite lonely in my day-to-day life. I love reading, and I always thought it would be amazing to be in a book club. But the thought of walking into a room full of strangers, it was terrifying.
I can totally imagine that feeling. The, what if they don't like me? Or, what if I say something stupid? Voice in your head gets really loud.
It was deafening, but I decided I had to take the plunge. That's a great idiom, by the way. To take the plunge means to decide to do something important or difficult, especially after thinking about it for a long time. So I found a local book club that met in a cozy little cafe near my apartment. I remember standing outside the door for about 5 minutes, just building up the courage to go in. My heart was pounding.
Oh, I've been there. That moment of hesitation is the worst. What happened when you went in?
It was completely fine. Of course it was. Everyone was just normal, friendly people who liked books. The first meeting, I barely said a word. I just listened. But then in the second meeting, we were discussing a book I absolutely loved. And I just couldn't help myself. I jumped in with an opinion, someone else agreed, someone else disagreed, and suddenly we were having this passionate, wonderful debate. We weren't just talking about the book, we were sharing our own life experiences that related to the story.
That's the magic, isn't it? When the conversation goes beyond the surface topic.
Exactly. And the feeling I had walking home that evening was incredible. It was a kind of warmth, a realness that I hadn't gotten from any online interaction. We were just a group of people from different backgrounds, different ages, connecting over a shared love for stories. It filled a void I didn't even realize was so big. Now they're some of my closest friends. We do things outside of the book club. We've built real supportive friendships. And it all started with that one terrifying moment of walking through a door.
That's such a powerful story, Olivia. It really shows that you have to step out of your comfort zone. Connection doesn't just happen. You have to actively seek it out and be a little bit brave. I had a similar experience, but with something completely different. Hiking.
Oh, I didn't know you were a big hiker.
Well, I wasn't. That was the point. Like you, I was feeling a bit stuck in a rut, spending too much time indoors on my laptop. A colleague mentioned he was part of a weekend hiking group and invited me along. My first thought was, no way. They're all probably super fit athletes. I'll be left behind on a mountain somewhere.
The internal monologue of fear strikes again.
It does. But he was persistent and I finally agreed. The first hike was tough. I was out of breath, my legs ached, and I was definitely the slowest one there. I felt a bit embarrassed. But what surprised me was the group's attitude. Nobody made me feel bad. In fact, the more experienced hikers kept checking on me, offering me water, giving me tips on how to pace myself. There was this immediate sense of camaraderie.
Camaraderie. That's a beautiful word. It means a feeling of friendship and trust among people who work or spend a lot of time together.
Precisely. We were all in it together, tackling the same challenge. The conversation on a hike is different too. It's not a constant stream of talk. There are long periods of silence, just the sound of your footsteps and your breathing. But then you'll stop for a break, look at this incredible view, and you'll start talking. And the conversations feel so much more meaningful. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're just two people sharing an experience. That shared effort, the physical challenge, it bonds you in a way that just having a coffee can't.
I love that. It's about connecting through a shared experience, not just shared words. Whether it's discussing a book, climbing a hill, taking a cooking class, or joining a local choir. It's about doing something together. It takes the pressure off the conversation because you have a built-in topic, a built-in reason to be there.
It absolutely does. You're not just meeting to connect. You're meeting to do something, and the connection is a natural, beautiful byproduct of that activity. It feels more organic, less forced.
Okay, so we've talked about the digital world and the power of in-person activities, but both of those things rely on one fundamental skill: conversation. And I feel like sometimes we're losing the art of it.
How do you mean?
Well, let's start with small talk. I think small talk gets a bad rap. People see it as meaningless and boring. Nice weather we're having, you know? But I actually think it's an incredibly important social tool. It's the bridge. It's how you get from stranger to acquaintance and maybe even to friend.
I see your point. It's like the warm-up before the main exercise. You can't just walk up to a stranger and ask them about their deepest fears and regrets. You need to test the waters.
Exactly. You need to establish a baseline of comfort and trust. The problem is, many people don't know how to do it effectively. The key, for me, is moving from closed questions to open-ended questions.
Okay, let's give our listeners a clear example of that. What's a closed question?
A closed question is one that can be answered with a simple yes or no, or a single piece of information. For example, did you have a good weekend? The answer is likely to be just, yes, thanks, and then silence. Awkward. The conversation dies.
Right. So an open-ended question would be,
An open-ended question invites a longer, more detailed answer. It often starts with what, how, or why. So instead of, did you have a good weekend, you could ask, what did you get up to over the weekend? This invites them to tell you a story. They might say, oh, I went to this amazing new market downtown, and now you have something to work with.
and you can follow up with more open-ended questions. Oh, that sounds interesting. What kind of market was it? Or how did you hear about it? You're showing genuine curiosity. You're being an active listener.
Active listening is the other half of the equation. It's not just about waiting for your turn to talk. It's about truly hearing what the other person is saying, processing it, and asking thoughtful follow-up questions. It's about using small verbal cues to show you're engaged, like, uh-huh, right, oh, really?
I think our phones have made us terrible at this. Have you ever been talking to someone and they're looking at their phone the whole time? They might be saying, uh-huh, but you know they're not really listening. It makes you feel completely unimportant. It's so disrespectful.
It's the ultimate conversation killer. It sends a clear message. Whatever is happening on this screen is more important than you. When you're talking to someone, especially someone new, putting your phone away, completely out of sight, is one of the most powerful signals of respect you can give. It says, I am here with you right now. You have my full attention.
That's a simple but profound act, and it allows you to move from that small talk bridge into deeper waters. The goal isn't to stay on the bridge forever. The goal is to cross it and get to the interesting landscape on the other side. A real conversation.
And what does that look like? A real deep conversation. For me, it involves a degree of vulnerability. It's about sharing not just what you did, but how you felt about it. Not just your opinions, but the experiences that shaped those opinions.
That requires trust, which is something you build up over time. You start with the small talk. You find common ground through shared activities, and then, slowly, you start to share more personal things. I think one of the most connecting questions you can ask someone you know reasonably well is a variation of, "How are you?"
What do you mean? Everyone asks, how are you?
Yes, but we usually use it as a greeting, not a real question. It's a social script. "How are you?" "Fine, thanks. You?" The conversation doesn't go anywhere. But if you pause, make eye contact, and ask with genuine intent, "No, really, how have you been lately?" It changes everything. It's an invitation. It tells the other person, I have time for the real answer. I'm ready to listen.
Oh, I love that. It's such a small change in wording and tone, but it has a huge impact. It shows you care. It's amazing how people will open up when they feel they have a safe space to do so. And when someone is vulnerable with you and you respond with empathy and without judgment, that is when a real bond is formed. That's the bedrock of a strong friendship.
It is. And it's a two-way street. You also have to be willing to be vulnerable yourself. You have to be willing to share your own struggles and not just your curated successes. When you admit that you're finding a project at work difficult or that you're worried about a family member, you become more human, more relatable. It gives the other person permission to be human too.
That's such a key point. Perfection is intimidating. Imperfection is connecting. We connect over our shared struggles and our common humanity far more than we do over our polished achievements.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, from the pitfalls of social media to the joys of book clubs and the mechanics of a good conversation. I think it would be helpful to distill this down into some practical, actionable steps for our listeners who might be feeling a bit disconnected and want to change that.
Great idea. Let's make a little connection toolkit. What's your first tip, James?
My first tip would be to conduct a digital audit. Spend one evening looking at your social media usage. Ask yourself, who am I following? How does this account make me feel? If an account consistently makes you feel inadequate or anxious, unfollow it. Be ruthless. Your mental health is more important than their follower count. And try to replace that passive scrolling time with active engagement. Instead of scrolling for 15 minutes, use that time to send 3 meaningful messages to friends.
That is brilliant advice. My first tip is to find your third place. Sociologists talk about the first place, your home, and the second place, your work or school. The third place is somewhere else where you can build community. A cafe, a park, a library, a community center. Find a physical location you can go to regularly. And my challenge would be to try joining one group or class related to a hobby you enjoy or have always wanted to try. It could be anything: pottery, yoga, a language exchange, a running club. Just commit to going for 1 month. See what happens.
I love that. The third place. My next tip is to practice the art of the open-ended question. For 1 week, make a conscious effort in your conversations. When you're tempted to ask a yes-no question, rephrase it. Instead of, "Did you have a busy day?" ask, "What was the most interesting part of your day?" Pay attention to how the quality of your conversations changes.
Yes, and to build on that, my final tip is to give the gift of your full attention. The next time you have a coffee or a meal with a friend or family member, put your phone on silent and in your bag. Not just face down on the table, but completely away. Try to make it through the entire conversation without looking at it once. Notice how it feels. Notice if the connection feels deeper.
These are all fantastic, tangible steps. It's not about deleting all of your social media or becoming a super extrovert overnight. It's about making small, intentional changes to shift the balance back towards more meaningful, authentic connection.
Exactly. It's a practice, an art form, not a problem with a perfect solution. It's about being mindful and intentional about how and where we invest our social energy.
Well, that brings us towards the end of our conversation today. We've talked about the good and the bad of digital life, the courage it takes to connect offline, and the fundamental skills of conversation that underpin it all.
It's been a really thought-provoking chat, James. It's made me appreciate the connections I have and inspired me to keep nurturing them, both online and off. And we truly hope it's given all of you out there listening some food for thought as well.
Now, we want to turn the microphone over to you. We believe the best conversations are two-way streets. So, here is our question for you this week. What is one small step you can take this week to build a more meaningful connection in your life?
Will you try James's digital audit? Or maybe my challenge of finding a third place? Will you practice asking open-ended questions? We would absolutely love to hear from you. Leave a comment below this video on our YouTube channel, Best English Podcast. Your stories and ideas are a huge part of this community.
And your comments are a great way to practice your written English in a supportive environment. Don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful and subscribe to the Best English Podcast so you don't miss our next episode. It really helps our channel grow and allows us to keep making this content for you.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. It truly means the world to us. Keep practicing, stay curious, and be kind to yourself and others.
Until next time, take care.